Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, May 17, 2023, 6 p.m. regular Planning Commission meeting. The meeting now will come in order. Tonight's invocation will be given by Ms. Masayer and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Ms. Flores. Everybody stand, please.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the ability to come before you with this commission. We invite you to be here with us this evening to grant us the wisdom with each and every case and situation that is presented before us tonight. In your name we pray.
Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, please announce any items you are recusing from due to the conflict of interest prior to this item being heard. Secretary, will you give me a roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner De La Rosa,
Present.
Commissioner Gomez,
Present.
Chairperson Rivera,
Present.
and please note, Commissioner Marcena and Vice Chairperson Villalobos will be excused today unless there are any objections from the commission.
Thank you.
If no objections, we can move forward.
Public comments is now open for item listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Secretary, please announce the instructions for the public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker and written comment are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us to the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute icon when instructed to. And Chairperson, we did not receive any in-person comment cards, nor do we have anyone in the chat line wishing to speak on any item on the agenda.
If I may, Chair Rivera, this
Yes.
is Lloyd. This is Lloyd. We will also open up the public hearing. We have one item, a zoning code amendment, that we will have a separate opening up for public comment.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. If there is no objection by the Planning Commission, I will close the participation. No objections?
No objections.
We'll close it. Public hearing item number 1, zoning code amendment number 2023-024, residential vehicle parking backup clearance ordinance number 933. Might have a staff report, please.
Good evening, Commissioners and Chairperson Rivera. My name is Adrian Flores. I'm the Assistant Planner with the city, and I'll be going over zoning code amendment number 2023-024, which is involving the residential vehicle backup for parking, and is identified as ordinance number 933. Just a little background on the zoning code amendment. Bell Gardens Municipal Code Section 9.38.070B requires a minimum of 25-foot backup clearance from any property line, structure, obstacle to ensure sufficient vehicle maneuvering for vehicles. In addition to that, Bell Gardens Municipal Code Section 9.46.030 specialized rear yard requirements provides that up to 1/2 of the width of an adjoining alley may be used to calculate the required backup clearance. Now, just a little visual for you guys to get a better understanding of these two sections. Currently, right now, what the code permits is if there is a garage that adjoins an alley, a vehicle exiting out of the garage may use up to half of the alley for their backup clearance. Now, it's required that they have a minimum of 25 feet backup clearance. So you can see the green line here, that's their total 25 feet backup clearance. And this green square with the triangle is the vehicle that would be backing up into. And the red lines depict the alley width and the property line. Now, if we allow an applicant to use only one half of the width of the alley required for the backup clearance, it would leave approximately 10 to 15 feet of space, which would eventually encourage a tandem parking situation. Now, a tandem parking situation would result in vehicle protrusions into the alley. As you can see in this diagram here, this would invite a vehicle to park in that open space, and the vehicle would be protruding into the alleyway. Now, alleyways are used for accessways of vehicles, so there is a potential for a vehicle to hit one of the parked vehicles that is protruding into the alley. So we want to go ahead and revisit that to address this issue. Now, the proposed amendment, first, it creates a subsection 1 to relocate an amendment language currently identified in section 9.46.030, specialized rear yard requirements, allowing the use of the entire width of the alley in the calculation of the required backup clearance for residential parking. The second thing it will do is it will replace the term of residential garages with residential parking spaces. Now, this is just to clarify that the minimum 25-foot backup clearance requirement applies to all off-street parking spaces, garages, carports, and uncovered spaces for residential uses. That's just for clarification. Now, just to reiterate what I just explained, zoning code amendment 2023-2024 proposes to amend Title IX zoning and planning regulations to 1, remove Chapter 9.46 yard provisions, Section 9.46.030 specialized rear yard requirements, and it will amend Chapter 9.38 parking and loading off-street, Section 9.38.070 motor vehicle maneuvering and parking space layout. Now, removing the specialized rear yard requirements section and centralizing the location of vehicle maneuvering standards for residential parking would essentially streamline the efficient review of entitlement requests and help prevent obstructions to traffic and safety. It would provide the planners to process reviews a little bit more efficiently if the standards are located all in one place, with the addition, of course, of preventing obstructions to traffic and safety. Simplifying the zoning code standards by clarifying the backup clearance would also accommodate for mix of housing types and facilitate need for housing production. This allows buildings to move a lot closer towards the alleyway, giving them a little bit more room for more development, and also allows properties to utilize this language to evidently introduce new units, and then because they're able to introduce new parking. Now, zoning code amendment 2023-024 would be consistent with the Bell Gardens general plan land use element and circulation element. It would be consistent with the land use element policy number 2, because it emphasizes the city's commitment to promote compatible residential development and ensure safe housing. The zoning code amendment will discourage incompatible prohibited tandem parking. And that's that is what the zoning code amendment is going to achieve. Now, under circulation element, the zoning code amendment would be consistent with policy M2.6, which emphasizes the city's commitment to place safety and reduction of collisions on high priority, and program M2.B, which states the city will assist applicants with demonstrating compliance with mobility policies. The zoning code amendment would achieve both policy M2.6 and program M2.B of the circulation element by ensuring vehicles maintain the required backup clearance for appropriate maneuverability and accessing residential parking spaces while maintaining the public right-of-way open to serve local needs. And lastly, the zoning code amendment would be consistent with circulation element policy M 5.2, which emphasizes the city's commitment to require that the new developments provide off-street parking for new residential units. The zoning code amendment would essentially encourage developers to utilize an alleyway for their vehicle maneuvering purposes only while maintaining on-site residential parking for fewer attractions to block the public right of way. You know, developers could also use the clarity in residential parking layout alternative to provide higher density, which would be supportive of the Bell Gardens regional housing needs allocation. Now, it is recommended today that the Planning Commission open the public hearing and receive public testimony and find that the recommendation on the proposed ordinance is not subject to the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act for the reasons stated herein. And lastly, close the public hearing and adopt resolution PC 2023-03, recommending to the City Council approval of zoning code amendment number 2023-024 and adoption of ordinance number 933, amending Title 9 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code. That concludes my staff report. Staff is available for any questions the commissioners may have. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will open public hearing and receive public testimony. Secretary, please announce the instructions for the public participation.
The members of the public now have an opportunity to speak on this item listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. And we did not receive any in-person comment cards for this item. And I do not see anybody in the chat line wishing to speak on this item.
There is no,
No, we did not. We do not have anybody in the chat line, nor did we receive any comment cards on this item.
okay, thank you. If there are no objections by the Planning Commission, I will close the public hearing. I'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions for the staff from the commissioners?
Yes, I do have a question. I wanted to go back in the PowerPoint to the layout that you have that shows the tandem parking. I have a question about this. You had mentioned something about that the new plan would allow new development to go further, give them more space. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. So basically what that means is, as you can see in this diagram here, this building is set back 15 feet away from the property line. And this is essentially so this parking space can meet the required backup clearance using half of the alley. What the zoning code amendment would do is allow this parking space to use the entire alley width. So then they can move this building a bit closer to the property line. So they won't invite any vehicles to do tandem parking here.
Okay. So I mean, basically the goal is to not have any kind of blocking in the alleyway, but give them enough room to move out of the limited space that they have.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
So we're allowing them to use the entire width of the alley instead of half of the alley for the required backup clearance. And this is just so, tandem parking is prohibited in our municipal code. However, we want to make sure that we're going out of our way to prevent any potential illegal parking in the city.
And parking is not allowed in the alley at all?
No, parking in the alley is prohibited.
Okay, thank you.
Question? Can you elaborate just why this ordinance is needed in the city? So just kind of in general.
Oh, yeah, so there are a few projects in the city that do utilize the alley for their vehicle backuping. So at this time, the city does allow the projects to use up to half of the alley. So that is already being utilized for the backup clearance. Now we want to go ahead and allow them to use the entire width of the alley so they could move the building a little bit closer to the property line to prevent any vehicles parking there. Now this is needed because we want to prevent any vehicles from parking in the open space in front of the garages that's facing off the alley. That way, those vehicles won't be protruding into the alley, causing an obstruction. There's quite a few properties in the city that do have access off the alley. So we want to go ahead and make sure we do preventative measures for that purpose.
Okay,
Right, and Chair Rivera, Stephen Jones, City Planner here, I might add that part of the impetus was because we were finding it challenging to accommodate different projects that would come in for accessory dwelling units or even just additional regular units. And the state, as you know, has passed down mandates that, for lack of a better word, remove a lot of discretion from what we can and cannot approve. And so when you have the mandate to accommodate accessory dwelling units, and then there's parking that's required for the main units, and we have to make sure that those items are addressed, it's another way for us to streamline review and make sure that we're accommodating residents and property owners and developers to include more density where we've deemed it appropriate based on the housing element update and again, the state mandates. And then beyond that, it's a way for us to synthesize or make a comprehensive list of what's required, because right now in the code, you go to 3 or 4 different areas to find ways to help people. And so rather than going to 3 or 4 different sections that you may or may not remember or miss, we're putting it all in one section. We're consolidating all the information and making it comprehensive enough for planners to easily review and help folks, but then also giving them some flexibility with how they back in and out or pull in and out of their property when it's adjacent to an alley. So a couple of different things, streamlining so that we can review in one area rather than 3 or 4 different areas of the code, and making sure that we can accommodate the different design standards and ways folks are finding unique ways to add density where, again, the state and the city have deemed it appropriate.
okay. Thank you. Any questions? I just want to make a motion that this problem will help us. Like we had one house one time, the car will be parking kind of on the walk side, walking for people, and then we kind of push it in. And it's been working really good. It was really close to the high school. So I think this one, it will fine line and finally make it a little more organized as far as the city as a whole. So I just want to make that remark. And if we don't have no more questions for the staff, I will entertain a motion.
Excuse me, Chair Rivera, can I just say one thing?
Yes.
This is Lloyd, City Attorney. Just a reminder, I know this is review, but the zone code amendment is a legislative act, so only the City Council can make that happen. And this resolution from the Planning Commission is the law requires that the Planning Commission make its recommendation to the City Council. So it's a recommendation, and if the Planning Commission recommended no, that doesn't stop the process. Whatever the recommendation is, that's fine. It goes to City Council so that the City Council knows how the Planning Commission feels about it. Thank you, Chair Rivera.
Thank you. So I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we go ahead and move this forward, file this report.
However, we want to make the motion. I mean, to make the recommendation for the City Council, or not to make a recommendation, not to.
I recommend that we make the recommendation to the city council. I move that we recommend to the city council.
Okay, need a second?
I second that.
Give me a roll call, Secretary, please.
Well, let me clarify if I may. It's not, the vote is not to make a recommendation. The vote, I believe what I'm hearing is that the motion is to recommend approval.
I move that we recommend approval. City Council.
A second.
Okay, I will now do a roll call. Commissioner De La Rosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
and Chairperson Rivera.
Yes. Consent calendar, item number 2 will be now moved to the consent calendar. Does any members of the Planning Commission wish to pull an item for separate discussion? No. Might entertain a motion to,
Motion to approve the attached minutes.
in a
Agenda
sec-
report item 2.
in a second.
I second the motion.
Give me a call again, please.
Sure, Commissioner De La Rosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
and Chairperson Rivera.
Yes, please. Public comments on that agenda item is now open for item not listed in the Planning Commission agenda. Secretary, please announce the instructions for the public participation.
The members of the public now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. And we did not receive any in-person comment cards on any items not on the agenda, and nor do we have anybody in the chat line wishing to speak, Chairperson.
If there is no objection by the Planning Commission, I will close the public comment. No objection. Those staff comments.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I have 3 announcements tonight. So just really quickly, since we're timely tonight, the EJ element is still underway, and staff has been meeting with Impact Sciences, our consultant, to review a draft survey that is upcoming to capture the experience of the community and get what's important. We anticipate its release in the next couple of weeks to residents, city staff, and area workers via email, online, and in person at community events and local city offices and parks. So please be on the lookout for that survey, and we look forward to your thoughts. This will be helpful for the first draft of the element. Number 2, based on the commission's input on the EJ element public participation plan and your comments from the last meeting with the indicators memo, staff applied for and received a grant award for services that includes UC Berkeley's Safe Track and CalWalks organizations, facilitating pedestrian and bicycle safety workshops. Primarily, you mentioned there were disconnectivity issues with bicycle lanes and just pedestrian safety in general. So we're working with that group based on the award that they provided for free services. And planning committee preparation has begun. Staff will present to the city council on June 12th to receive their consent to convene a planning committee for a safety action plan and to allow Bell Gardens to be positioned for grant funding to implement the plan that we come up with. So community involvement is anticipated and expected. So we'll have outreach for that coming soon too. And then the third and final announcement is that staff will be introducing the commercial cannabis activity ordinance at your special 5:30 meeting. And the impetus for that is that lack of access to California's legal cannabis marketplace threatens consumer safety and perpetuates the illegal market. So the Department of Cannabis Control launched a local jurisdiction retail access grant, and Bell Gardens applied for that grant. So we expect to hear back about funding and awarding just after June 23rd of this year. And as the information is awaited, we realize that financially, or the state realizes that financially supporting the creation of pathways for local jurisdictions to license retail and create innovative ways and incentives to ensure consumers have access to safe, legal, and retail product. The grant funds are intended to help reduce illicit market activity and provide that access. This will help Bell Gardens position itself as well to be consistent with state law that's consistently changing. And in 2024, new laws will be applicable for increasing medicinal and recreational use in the state. So as that expands, Bell Gardens, if you consent to, or if the city council consents to the ordinance, will be positioned to be prepared for the state changes. And this concludes my report. I'm available for any questions.
So that's the item for the Special Planning Commission.
That is the item for the Special Planning Commission meeting on May 30th.
Any questions, Tom? Commission's comments?
Yes, I just have a question in regards to food vending. Since our last meeting, did we receive any inquiries from any food vendors, requesting assistance to apply for a permit or anything of that nature?
None that I know of. We have a sign-up sheet in the planning counter, and I've seen no food vendors specifically request help. So the process is out there. The flyers are sent out with the public health information and with access to our information for questions. So personally, I've received no phone calls, emails, or visits to the counter, but the information is there that says we're able to help and willing, but the public health information is specifically included in that. So folks may be able to reach out directly, but if they do run into problems, we are there to assist in any way we can. Mhm.
Okay, having no more comments, need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Adjourn.